or he hasn't done anything wrong so far. So this quick into the game, 3 minutes, 30 seconds into the game, we can already see a huge advantage for the Terran player. So if you go ahead and want to unpause, I just wanted to highlight that point. Don't queue up units. I know everyone said it,
Yep.
but it really does make a difference. This is literally going to delay the Protoss player about a minute on absolutely everything because of what he's doing. So unpause.
Yep, unpaused. I'm actually going to pause for a second. Let me know when you're at 350.
Oh, okay. I'm going to speed up because I'm at 350 now.
Okay, awesome. All right, perfect then. One other thing I also wanted to emphasize, the fact that Killer Kimchi did get 2 gas assimilators before, one thing to take into consideration with your economy. In simplistic terms, if you're not going to use it, don't get it. And that also includes production as well. For instance, at this point, he does have that second gas geyser, and he's got almost 300 gas stockpiled. Now, that's going to be a lot of sentries later, possibly, or whatever he wants to do with it. He could make DTs even. He could do anything with that gas. But in general, just a rule of thumb, if you aren't going to use whatever production or gas in particular, you can always use minerals. Minerals are always nice.
Yes. You can never have too many of that.
Yeah. And if you have too many of that, then we'll talk about trust funds, slush funds, and secret mistress funds later. We'll talk about that.
That's coming up today.
I'm sure it will. That problem will definitely come up at some point. But, yeah. And we see the Steel going for this double tech lab play. It looks like he paid attention to our... Actually, wait a minute. Never mind.
I love how we're taking like credit for everything he's doing.
Actually, really not. Actually, this is actually something completely different.
But I like it. Here's the reason why. He has these 2 gases, which is, if you're going to get, just a tip, as a Terran player, you only need 2 gases if you're teching up. The Steel, very good decision, getting that factory down, probably
Absolutely.
going for some quick medevacs, I'm assuming.
I think he ends up actually going for some quick Banshees, so...
yeah, he does.
It's actually a good play. Actually, for a bronze level play in this game, the Steel does actually a pretty cool attack later, but we'll see that later. We're going to see Killer Kimchi going to be going on 5 gates on 1 base. Actually, could we pause for a second?
Yeah, go ahead and pause. You talk about the Protoss, I'm going to talk about the Steel.
Okay. As for the Protoss, one thing we'd like to mention about production in general, because we're going to just be really focusing, as we said, on production today. You don't really want to be able to have more production than you can afford to use. Typically on a Protoss base, you're only going to be able to afford 4 gates, which is why the 4-gate play has become so popular for rush tactics, particularly in PvP matchups. But we'll talk about the 4-gate specifically later. But typically you can only support 4 production facilities on your first base, and then you can add 2 or 3 depending on what you have on your bases.
And that goes for Terran and Protoss, correct?
Yes.
You can have like 4 barracks or something. Well,
Yeah.
4 factories, probably not.
We have to calculate that out. Basically, it depends on how expensive the units you are getting. But you definitely cannot afford the 5-gate on 1 base. Now, 5 gates on 2 bases plus a forge is an excellent opener. At least it's a moderately successful one, especially if you go for Twilight Council. But we can... Yeah, sorry, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm trying to talk about so many different things because there's so much to talk about.
Definitely. Can I go ahead and take over for the Steel?
Absolutely.
Okay, if we look in the Steel's base, we can see that he is supply blocked, or he is soon going to be.
Yes.
Now, he isn't supply blocked yet. All of his units, if you check his production stations, they're all building. That's good. But what he didn't realize is that he built his supply depot too late. Supply depot takes the exact same time to build as a Marauder, and basically the same time as a Marine.
Yep.
Basically what you want to do is you want to have, we touched on this last week, you want to have 1 SCV building a supply depot at all times in your base, up to the point when you actually start attacking, because obviously once you start attacking, your population is going to fluctuate, and your supply depots are going to be worthwhile in the end, because your army's killing his army and your army's dying, so you don't need as many supply depots. But a good rule of thumb is to have, since Marauders both cost 2 food.
Yep.
And I'm assuming his...
saying that. I sound crazy.
Yeah, yep. And Hellions, Banshees, Medevacs, anything he can be going with this tech costs 2 food. And the Command Center costs 1 food for the SCV. And about 2 food for every supply depot. So that's 8 food that you're building in the time it makes to make 1 supply depot. So 8 food, 1 supply depot, pretty balanced. So if you keep building supply depots at the correct time, you're never going to get supply blocked. Because look at this. His Marauders are going to be finished, and his supply depot is not going to be. So he's probably going to lose at least 2 units in this. And we all know StarCraft, sometimes you lose because of just a couple of units. There's a big difference between 10 Marauders and 8 Marauders.
Absolutely.
Just as there's a big difference between 22 Stalkers and 20 Stalkers. The 22 are going to win massively. It's not going to be like they have 2 left. They're going to have 5 or 6 left. So getting supply blocked early in the game is a no-no. If you do it, you really have to focus on fixing that. That's priority number 1. Not getting supply blocked.
Absolutely.
Well, after building probes and such. That's
Literally,
priority 1.
I think you could get to platinum level without any other knowledge of the game if you literally spent your entire time not getting supply blocked and had perfect production so that you were using all of your money. Like if you could do that, it wouldn't matter what units you built. And if you just literally A-clicked across the map, you would probably win a lot of your games if you never got supply blocked.
But let's go ahead and unpause.
Okay,
now.
Unpaused.
And just one last thing about the supply block. Out of all, I think we've had 15 replays sent to us over the course of the couple weeks, and every single one that we've watched, a player's gone supply blocked.
Yep.
So if you can fix that in your game, it's something very easy to fix, and it has immediate
payoff, instant.
Yeah, immediate. If you look at Killer Kimchi, he just built a pylon, and his warp gates are going to be done in 10 seconds. So he's going to miss a full cycle of units, basically, when his warp gates finish. So...
Stop scanning. Manor scan. Apparently the steel ticking Kimchi off a little bit. And we're going to see the steel go for some Banshees at this point. But really at this point, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the production is completely dependent upon these supply depots, the pylons. I also would like to note a little bit about Killer Kimchi with these pylon placements. You always want to be able to power up most of your production facilities on as many pylons as possible, just because in that way, later on when play gets advanced, if there's a drop in your base, or if they come by with Banshees or Mutas or anything like that, you don't lose your production. Because if you lose production, it's taking the rug right out from underneath you, and you can literally lose a game. It's the legendary Artosis Pylon.
Yep.
You don't want Artosis Pylons.
You definitely don't. And while you were talking, I was actually counting the amount of seconds it took for Killer Kimchi to use his warp gates. His warp gates were able to produce a unit, but he waited 17 seconds before he actually built them.
Mm-hmm. And that's half a production cycle, we'd like to add. Because every 32 seconds at the most, you can produce another unit out of your gateways.
Yeah. So if he does that twice in a row, that's with his 5 buildings, that's minus 5 units to his arsenal. And we already need 5 extra stalkers to an army, guys. It's worth it. So we are just looking at the steel and looking at Killer Kimchi. Killer Kimchi did have a lot of money. He actually got rid of it really, really well. Mm-hmm. He had around 1,000 minerals, so he's like, oh, I have so much money. I'm going to build some units, and then I'm going to go expand. So if you ever have extra money and you're queuing up a bunch of units or building units constantly, go take an expansion. It puts a lot of money into those buildings. So just something to consider. I know a lot of players in Bronze aren't actually comfortable with expanding, but if you have 2,000 minerals, what's the worst that can happen? It's going to die, so what? You have that much money, might as well try.
Actually, literally, a tip for Zerg players that I've been told by one of my friends who's helping me improve my Zerg play in particular, is if you have 1,000 minerals left over, you may as well just throw down what's called a macro hatchery. Just throw down a hatchery in a different location, get a queen, and you'll be able to spend that money then. And by that point, you should have more drones, so you'll be able to afford to use that. And that's just in general a good place to be. More money, more larva, more production. We'll talk more about Zerg in the next couple of games, though, after this game does complete. We're going to see the steel is setting up for a pretty awesome attack for Bronze League.
Yeah, this is legit stuff. This is what you'll see in really high-level play, so...
It's a little bit off, but it's still... The concept behind it is absolutely perfect. The steel executed this very, very well for Bronze League. So we're going to see a move in with these Banshees. One thing to note about this attack, because this actually has to do with production, I'm going to comment on it. He's going for economy. Economy kill is huge. If you can cause your opponent to have, say, 10 less workers than you, that's anywhere from between 350 to 450 less minerals he's going to have per minute. That's a lot of money we're talking there. And we're going to see, in fact, he's going to take out that Nexus at the same point in time. On the other side, he does lose one Banshee, but one Banshee for how many workers did he kill? He got 6 workers, and he got a Nexus. That's excellent sniping by the Steel, so very well played there.
And let's go ahead and pause it for the final time, I think.
Okay.
And I wanted to talk about that attack. The attack was brilliant, yes, and it worked really, really well. But I would actually discourage that kind of attack, and here's why. While Septiel was going through the battle and explaining how it was a good tactical decision and all, that was actually strategy. And while we're going over bronze and silver level games, I really don't want to focus on strategy as much want to go over fundamentals. You really have to be really good at the fundamentals before you can go through the strategy. And here's what I mean. I was watching that attack through the eyes of the Steel. I was actually watching what was on his screen during that attack. During that attack, that 30-second attack, his money went from 100 minerals to around 700 minerals. That's acceptable, I guess. He was battling, he was microing. Well, if you really think about it, the only vision he ever had was of the Nexus. If you want to go back and watch it, you can see that all his units, he was focusing on taking down the Nexus, stimming, and moving his units around.
Did you go back in time? I hope not, because I did.
I did not. I did not.
Okay, I was just making sure because it would really throw off our sync. They really do need to make that sync button for replays. I know I say that every time, but I'm going to continue to. Maybe someday we'll be like, hey, Septiel keeps on saying we should probably do this. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's hope.
Doubtful,
but
we can hope.
We've been telling you a lot of what has been wrong with play, and don't worry. We're not going to just say this is wrong, don't do that. We're going to actually tell you how not to do that. And this is going to be the first one. If you are attacking your opponent, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, if you're attacking your opponent, don't focus on attacking your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
The logic behind that is he built 0 units when he was attacking. So what would happen if none of his barracks had any men queued up? What would have happened if Killer Kimchi had a ton of units just somehow? He stopped that attack, swept over them, and then counterattacked immediately. And then the Steel's like, oh, I was busy microing. Oh, shoot, back in my home, I have no units left.
You have no units, yeah. And that's exactly where you run into problems. We talked about that a little bit last week. Reinforcements make a huge deal in an engagement. If you just have, even if you lose an engagement, you can keep yourself alive and say, let's play out this situation a little bit differently. Let's say the Steel already had his natural, and he was going for a third in the process of this attack. Let's just say hypothetically. So he's going for his third. He expands to that third, and he loses his army, but he's able to defend. Now he's able to keep 3 bases. His opponent's down on 1 base or 2 bases. Let's even say they were even on bases, and the Steel just took him down 1 base. Now he has an advantage in bases, which will allow him to get back ahead in units and keep himself alive to take the game later.
Yeah. One thing you players can definitely do if you're working on or struggling with having your money too high is when you're attacking, immediately go back to your base. Get a hotkey or something. If you really want to try something daring, use the F keys like F1, F2, F3, F4. And you can literally highlight a position on the map, so when you hit F1, it goes to that location on the map.
By the way, you will have to change the settings. What I did I went. I'll even show you. Actually, I'll go to my.
It's F5, F6, F7. If you want to show them.
Yeah, I'm going to show them here on the stream here.
Another way is you can just
really useful.
You can just keep going.
Yep. Basically, with this, you can go create location. And it's going to be Control Shift F1. All I did is I changed mine to Control F1. This is particularly useful as Zerg because then you can just put it over your hatchery, so you don't have to hotkey your queens anymore. All you can do is literally hit F1 once, and now you're at that hatchery with that queen, and you can get your inject then, which we'll talk about how incredibly important injects are later tonight.
And we know this is very, very advanced. I'm still actually trying to perfect this, the terrain hotkeys kind of deal, but we're trying to encourage good habits from the get-go.
Absolutely, because if you can get that, just put it this perspective, if you can get that by the time you're in Gold League, you will be in such amazing shape when you get to Diamond or above. Frankly, it's something that, I'm still practicing doing, and it makes a world of difference in my play, being able to just jump around.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and unpause and finish this game real quick. So, what we've learned in this one game, just the single game, is
Did you unpause?
that yes, I unpaused, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna.
You can go ahead and speed up. There's not too much left to know. Like, we know that the Steel's in amazing shape, and he's going to eventually win the game.